She hides in an abandoned cave to avoid the marking ceremony, until the Alpha King showed up at her. The wind whispered through the twisted trees as Leora ran. Her small, bare feet barely made a sound on the forest floor, but the pounding of her own heart was deafening. Tonight was supposed to be the night of the marking ceremony, the night every Omega of her age was taken to pledge loyalty to their clan's Alpha King. But she couldn't. She refused. The thought of being marked, of surrendering her life to someone she barely knew, made her stomach twist with fear. Leora's chest heaved as she darted between the shadows of the ancient trees. The moonlight barely pierced the thick canopy above, leaving her in a silver-gray haze. Every snapping twig, every rustle of leaves made her jump, certain someone was following her. She didn't stop running until the forest thinned, and the abandoned cave appeared, its dark mouth yawning like a warning. The villagers said it was cursed. No one went near it, not even the hunters who wandered these woods daily. But to Leora, the danger outside seemed far greater than any old story. She pressed herself against the cold stone walls inside the cave, shivering from both fear and exhaustion. Her breaths came in ragged gasps as she sank to the ground, hugging her knees. The cave smelled of damp stone and moss, and shadows stretched across the walls like fingers trying to reach her. She closed her eyes, trying to calm herself. I just need to hide until sunrise, until someone forgets about me, until something, a faint sound made her freeze, a soft, deliberate footstep echoing in the cave. Leora's heart jumped into her throat. "Who's there?" she whispered. Her voice was barely audible, swallowed by the darkness. From the shadows, a tall figure emerged. His presence made the air itself seem heavier. Leora instinctively shrank back, her instincts screaming at her to run, but she was trapped against the cold stone. He stepped closer and the faint moonlight revealed his features, sharp, commanding, and impossibly handsome. His dark eyes scanned her, and yet they held no cruelty, only curiosity. "I didn't think anyone would come here," the man said, his voice low and steady. "Especially not an Omega." Leora's pulse quickened. Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I am Kalen," he said simply, "Alpha King of this land." The words hit her like a stone. Kalen, the feared ruler of the northern clans. Stories of him were whispered across the kingdom, stories of strength, cruelty, and an unyielding will. And now he stood in front of her, calm, dangerous, and yet not threatening. "Why are you here?" Leora asked, her small voice steadier than she felt. This is mine." "You should hide," Kalen finished for her, his gaze unwavering. "You cannot run from the marking ceremony forever, but perhaps," he paused, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes, "perhaps you are not meant for it in the way they think." Leora's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Kalen knelt down so he was closer to her level, his dark cloak pooling on the ground like a shadow. "You are not like other Omegas," he said softly. "I can feel it. There is a power in you, Leora, one that should not be ignored." Fear and confusion swirled inside her. Power. She was just a girl, hiding from a ceremony she didn't want to attend. She shook her head. "I'm nothing, just a scared girl. Please leave me alone." Kalen's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Fear does not mean weakness. Sometimes it is the strongest fire of all." Before she could respond, a strange sound echoed from deeper inside the cave, a low, almost whispering hum. The walls themselves seemed to shimmer for a brief moment, and Leora froze, staring at the runes carved faintly into the stone. They glowed softly, revealing strange symbols she had never seen before. "Those runes," Kalen said, following her gaze. "They are old, older than my kingdom. They speak of a bond between the one who holds power and the one who can guide it." Leora swallowed hard. "I don't understand." "You will," Kalen said, standing. He extended a hand toward her. "But first you must trust yourself. And perhaps trust me." Her instincts screamed at her to run, yet something in his eyes made her hesitate. There was a warmth there, a promise of protection that she had never known. Slowly, almost reluctantly, she took his hand. The moment their fingers touched, the cave seemed to shift. Shadows danced along the walls, forming shapes that looked almost alive. Leora felt a surge of energy rise inside her, sharp and wild, like a river breaking free from a dam. She gasped and pulled her hand back, stepping away. "It's okay," Kalen said, his voice calm. "You are not in danger, not from me." But the cave was not empty. A shadow moved at the far end, watching them. Leora's stomach tightened. Someone or something is here. Kalen's gaze followed hers, sharp and alert. "You are not alone," he said quietly. "Stay behind me." The shadow approached, and Leora could see it more clearly now, a figure cloaked in black, moving with unnatural grace. Its eyes glinted in the dim light, and it paused, as if studying them both. "You should not have come here," the figure said, its voice hollow and echoing. Kalen's hand went to the hilt of a sword at his side. "Leave," he commanded, his voice carrying a weight that made even the shadow pause. For a moment nothing happened. Then, with a sudden movement, the shadow lunged. Leora screamed and tried to run, but Kalen was faster. In a blur of motion, he intercepted the attack, the shadow striking the air where he had stood. A sharp clang rang out as steel met steel. "You're stronger than you look," the shadow hissed. Kalen did not respond, his focus unwavering. Leora felt a strange pull in her chest, as if something inside her was waking. The runes on the walls glowed brighter, their whispers growing louder, almost urging her forward. "Leora!" Kalen's voice snapped her out of the daze. "Now!" Instinctively, she raised her hands, and a sudden pulse of energy erupted from her fingertips. The shadow recoiled, caught off guard. It hissed and vanished into the darkness, leaving the cave silent once more. Leora sank to the ground, trembling both from fear and from the power that had surged through her. Kalen knelt beside her, his dark eyes studying her. "Do you see?" he said softly. "You are not ordinary, you never were." I don't understand," Leora whispered. "What was that?" "Magic," Kalen said simply. "Old magic, strong, dangerous, and rare, and it is tied to you." The words made Leora's head spin. Her whole life had been ordinary, or at least she had thought so. Now everything felt different. The forest, the cave, even herself, nothing was as it had been. Kalen extended his hand again. "Come with me. I can teach you control. I can keep you safe. But hiding here, hiding will not save you. Not from the ceremony, not from your destiny, not from yourself." Leora looked at the cave's dark entrance, then at the Alpha King who had just saved her life. Her mind screamed to refuse, to run, to hide forever. But deep down, she knew he was right. She could not hide, not from the ceremony, not from her powers, not from the truth that now seemed impossible to ignore. Finally, trembling, she took his hand. As they stepped out of the cave together, the wind picked up, carrying whispers that seemed to come from the forest itself. Kalen's eyes scanned the darkness ahead. "We are not alone," he said quietly. "Others are watching us, but together we can face whatever comes." Leora swallowed hard, her fear still there but mingled with a spark of something new, curiosity, courage, and a strange, unbidden trust. She did not know what lay ahead, but for the first time she felt the possibility of hope, and in the shadows eyes glinted. A watcher waited, patient and silent, knowing that the union of the Alpha King and the hidden Omega would either bring salvation or chaos. Leora shivered, not from cold, but from the awareness that her life had changed forever. She had hidden for so long, tried to run, tried to ignore her fate, but fate had found her. And it had arrived in the form of a man she both feared and could not help but notice, standing beside her in the dark of the forest. The moon rose higher, casting a silver glow over the trees and the path ahead. Leora took a deep breath. She did not know what would come next, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. And so, the journey began. The forest around them seemed alive, as Kalen led Leora along a narrow, winding path. Moonlight spilled through the branches, creating patterns that danced across their faces. Leora's thoughts were a whirlwind: fear, wonder, and a strange pull toward the man beside her. Kalen walked with the confidence of someone who belonged to every shadow in the land, yet he moved carefully, as if aware of every danger the forest might hold. "You must be tired," Kalen said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm, steady, like the grounding anchor she hadn't realized she needed. Leora shook her head, keeping her gaze on the ground. I'm okay," she murmured. "I can walk." He glanced at her, his dark eyes assessing, yet gentle. "You were stronger than I expected back there in the cave. Most would have fled entirely, or worse." Leora's cheeks burned at the praise. She had never thought of herself as strong. Fear had guided her life, made her careful, made her small. But now she felt something different. A strange energy lingered beneath her skin, tingling with life and potential. What was that magic?" she asked quietly, still replaying the moment when power had surged through her. Kalen's expression darkened. "Not all magic is simple, Leora. What you released back there, it is old, very old. Dangerous if uncontrolled, but powerful if mastered. That is why I am here. That is why you cannot hide forever." Leora's stomach twisted. She wanted to run, to escape, yet she felt drawn to him, to this world that suddenly seemed larger and more terrifying than anything she had ever known. They moved in silence for a while until the sound of rushing water reached them. Kalen led her to a small stream, the water sparkling under the moonlight. He gestured for her to kneel. "Drink," he said. "You need your strength." As Leora bent to drink, she noticed the way Kalen watched her, alert yet unthreatening. He was aware of every movement, every breath, as if he could sense danger before it came. She felt a shiver run down her spine, part fear, part something else she couldn't name. "Kalen," she whispered, hesitant, "why are you helping me? I am nothing. I am just an Omega hiding from my ceremony." Kalen's eyes softened. "You are not nothing. You are unique. Your blood carries an old magic, one that may change the course of this kingdom. That is why I must protect you and why I will not allow harm to come to you." Leora stared at him, unsure whether to feel fear or gratitude. The weight of his words pressed on her, but so did a strange curiosity. "Change the kingdom. Magic in my blood. How is that possible?" Before she could ask more, a sudden rustle from the trees froze them both. Kalen's hand went to the hilt of his sword instinctively. Leora's heart raced, and her own instincts, honed from years of hiding and running, flared. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in black, the same one they had glimpsed in the cave. Its eyes glinted like knives, and its presence sent a chill through Leora's spine. "You were warned," the figure said, voice hollow and echoing through the trees. Kalen stepped forward, placing himself between Leora and the stranger. "Leave," he commanded, his tone sharp. The figure laughed softly, a sound that made the air tremble. "You cannot protect her forever, Alpha King," the figure said. "She will awaken the power whether you are ready or not, and when she does—" The words faded into a hiss as the figure disappeared into the forest. Leora clutched her chest, her pulse hammering. What does that mean?" Kalen's jaw tightened. "It means you are not just hiding from a ceremony, Leora. There are forces, old forces, that will not let you stay hidden. Your magic, it has a destiny, and someone will try to take it from you." Leora's mind spun. She had thought the forest was dangerous, that the ceremony was the worst she could face. But now, magic, destiny, and enemies lurking in the shadows filled her world with a weight she could barely bear. "Why me?" she asked, voice trembling. "Why is this happening to me?" Kalen crouched down to her level, his dark eyes locking with hers. "Because you are stronger than you know, because fear does not define you, because this world needs you." A silence fell between them, heavy and charged. Leora's fear was still there, but now mixed with a spark of courage. She did not know if she could control the power within her, but for the first time she felt that perhaps she could try. Kalen stood, brushing leaves from his cloak. "We must move," he said. "The closer you are to your destiny, the closer your enemies will come. We cannot stay in one place for long." They walked in silence, the forest thickening around them. Shadows stretched like living things, and the wind carried faint whispers. Leora felt the power within her stirring again, responding to the magic in the air, and she realized that the forest itself seemed alive, aware of her presence. Finally, they reached the edge of a cliff overlooking a valley. The moonlight spilled across the land, revealing a castle in the distance. Its walls were tall and black, with spires that seemed to pierce the night sky. "That is my home," Kalen said softly. "You will be safe there for now, but safety is temporary. Your power must be trained. And you must learn to control it before it controls you." Leora's eyes widened. "Train me? How can I? I don't even know what this is." Kalen's expression softened, though his eyes remained sharp. "You will learn, and I will guide you, but you must trust me, Leora. The world is not kind to those who hide from their destiny." The journey to the castle was long. The path twisted through forests and over hills, and Leora struggled to keep up. Yet Kalen's presence was steady beside her, a shield against both fear and fatigue. Every time she faltered, he was there, not just to protect but to encourage. By the time they reached the castle gates, the sky was beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. Guards at the entrance bowed as Kalen passed, their loyalty unquestioned. Leora felt a thrill of awe. This was a place of power, a place she had only heard of in stories. And now she was here, standing beside the Alpha King. Inside the castle, the halls were vast and echoing. Tapestries depicting battles and old kings lined the walls, and chandeliers of crystal sparkled like captured stars. Leora felt small, yet also significant. She was part of this now, whether she liked it or not. Kalen led her to a quiet chamber overlooking the gardens. "This will be your room," he said. "You will rest, but soon training begins. You must understand your power or it will consume you." Leora sank onto the bed, overwhelmed. The events of the past night, the cave, the shadow, the magic, Kalen himself, spun through her mind. She wanted to run, to hide, to pretend it wasn't real. Yet the energy inside her pulsed stronger than ever, impossible to ignore. Kalen's voice broke the silence. "Leora." She looked up to see him standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Do not fear your power," he said. "Fear is natural, but it must not control you. That is the first lesson." "I don't know if I can," Leora whispered, her voice trembling. Kalen stepped closer. "You can, and you will, but only if you embrace it and trust yourself." For a long moment they stood in silence. Leora's heart raced, caught between fear and fascination. She did not understand the bond forming between them, this pull that seemed to stretch across the castle walls, across the night, across destiny itself. Finally, Kalen nodded and turned toward the door. "Rest now. Tomorrow your training begins, and tomorrow you will begin to understand who you truly are." Leora watched him leave, a shiver running down her spine. She was tired, yes, but also alive in a way she had never felt before. The world was larger, darker, and more beautiful than she had imagined. And for the first time she felt that perhaps she was not powerless, not in this place, not with this man, not with the magic that stirred in her veins. As she lay down, her thoughts drifted to the shadow in the forest. Who or what had watched her? Why did it fear her power? And why had Kalen seemed so certain that she was the key to something far greater than herself? Outside her window, the wind carried whispers of old magic, secrets buried deep in the land. Leora's pulse quickened, not with fear this time, but with anticipation. She did not yet understand what lay ahead, but she knew one thing clearly. She could never go back to the life she had known. And in the deepest shadows of the castle, unseen eyes watched, waiting. The awakening of Leora's power had begun, and with it, the balance of the kingdom was about to shift. The sun had barely risen when Leora awoke to a quiet stillness in the castle. The soft light filtered through the tall windows, painting golden streaks across her chamber. Her heart still beat fast from the events of the previous night, the cave, the shadow, and most of all, the strange pulse of magic that had surged through her when Kalen had guided her. She sat up slowly, her thoughts a whirlwind. Her power was real. She could no longer deny it. And Kalen had not just saved her. He had awakened something within her that she didn't yet understand. A soft knock at the door made her jump. "Enter," she called, her voice steadier than she felt. The door opened to reveal Kalen, his dark cloak brushing the floor. He stepped in silently, eyes scanning the room before resting on her. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm and even. "You slept well?" Leora hesitated, then nodded. I think so." Kalen's gaze softened slightly. "You need your strength. Today training begins. Your magic cannot remain untamed. It is dangerous both to you and to others." Leora swallowed hard. She had imagined training with magic before, studying spells or simple control, but nothing could have prepared her for what it felt like to hear Kalen speak of it as if it were life or death. Because now she knew it was. They left her room together, walking through the castle halls. Servants and guards bowed as Kalen passed, but their eyes lingered on Leora, curious and cautious. She felt a strange mix of fear and pride. Suddenly, she was no longer invisible. She had power, and with it came attention. Kalen led her to a large chamber at the heart of the castle. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating the stone floor. Strange markings and runes were carved along the walls, glowing faintly as if resonating with the magic Leora carried. "This is where you will train," Kalen said, his tone commanding but not unkind. "The magic you carry is not ordinary. It responds to emotion, to focus, and to intent. If you cannot control it, it could harm not only yourself but those around you." Leora's stomach knotted. I don't know if I can. What if I fail?" Kalen stepped closer, his presence grounding her. "Fear is natural. But failure is not final. The only way to learn is to try and to trust yourself." Her breath caught as she looked into his eyes. There was something in them, strength, patience, and a quiet expectation. She felt small yet strangely safe, standing beside the Alpha King who had seemed untouchable just hours before. "Focus," he said, gesturing toward the center of the room. "Close your eyes. Feel the magic around you. Let it flow through you, not against you." Leora closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. At first, nothing happened. Her mind wavered between fear and doubt. Then she felt it, a tingling sensation that started in her chest and spread to her fingertips. The glow from the runes on the walls brightened, responding to her energy. "Good," Kalen said, voice low but firm. "Now direct it. Imagine the energy moving, bending to your will." She concentrated, summoning every shred of courage. Slowly the energy formed, twisting into a small orb that hovered above her palm. Her eyes opened and she gasped. Kalen stepped closer, a rare smile touching his lips. "Well done. That is only the beginning." For hours they practiced. Leora learned to shape the energy, to feel it as an extension of herself rather than something wild and dangerous. Kalen guided her patiently, correcting her posture, adjusting her focus, and offering encouragement when frustration threatened to overwhelm her. By midday, Leora's arms ached, her mind felt drained, yet she also felt exhilarated. For the first time, she realized she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. "You are stronger than most," Kalen said as they paused to rest. "But strength alone is not enough. Magic requires discipline, emotion, and trust. You must trust yourself and trust those who guide you." Leora looked at him, her chest tight. "And I want to, but I'm afraid. What if I lose control?" Kalen's expression softened. "Fear is part of growth. It does not make you weak, it makes you human, but you are not alone, not while I am here." The words sent a shiver through her, not from fear, but from a strange warmth she could not name. She realized she was beginning to rely on him, not just for protection or guidance, but for understanding. And that thought both thrilled and terrified her. Their training continued into the afternoon. Leora grew more confident, more aware of the energy within her. Yet every now and then, the shadows in the corners of the chamber seemed to flicker, as if unseen eyes were watching, waiting for a mistake. By the time the sun began to set, painting the sky in streaks of orange and crimson, Kalen decided to end the session. "Enough for today," he said. "Your mind and body need rest, but remember what you have learned. The path ahead will demand more than raw power. It will demand control, courage, and understanding." Leora nodded, exhaustion and pride mingling within her. She felt a strange connection to Kalen, not just as a teacher or protector, but as someone who had seen her true self and accepted it. That night, as they walked through the castle gardens, Leora could not help but speak. "Kalen, why do you care so much? About me, I mean." "I'm just an Omega hiding from my ceremony. Most would never notice me." Kalen paused, looking out over the moonlit gardens. "You are not just an Omega," he said quietly. "You carry something ancient within you, something the world needs, and more than that, I see you, Leora. Not the fear, not the hiding, but you, your strength, your courage, even when you doubt it. That is why I care." Her heart skipped a beat. She wanted to speak, to say something, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she kept walking beside him, silent, feeling the warmth of his presence and the pull of something she could not yet name. Suddenly, a shout echoed from the far end of the gardens. Leora spun around, heart racing. A group of cloaked figures emerged from the shadows, moving swiftly and silently. Kalen's hand went to his sword, his stance protective. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Leora obeyed instinctively, her pulse hammering. The cloaked figures paused at the edge of the garden. One stepped forward, voice sharp and echoing. "Alpha King, we know she is with you. Hand her over. Her power belongs to us." Kalen's eyes narrowed, his grip on his sword tightening. "You will not have her," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Leave now and you may walk away alive." The figures laughed, a sound that made Leora shiver. "You cannot stop what is coming. She will awaken fully and no one will control her, not even you." Leora felt the energy inside her respond instinctively, pulsing through her like a living thing. She had no idea how to direct it, but the force was strong, wild, and fierce. A surge of power burst from her, pushing the intruders back. They hissed in surprise and retreated, melting into the shadows. Kalen turned to her, his dark eyes wide with awe. "That was extraordinary," he said. "You saved us." Leora sank to her knees, trembling from the intensity. "I didn't mean to, I just—" "You did exactly what you were meant to do," Kalen interrupted, his tone softening. "And you must learn to control it. Your power is not just yours, it is tied to this world, to the balance of magic itself. You cannot hide from it any longer." For a long moment they stood in silence, the moonlight casting silver shadows across the garden. Leora realized that she had changed, no longer just a frightened girl hiding from her fate, but someone with strength, courage, and a power that could shape the future. Kalen reached out, his hand hovering near hers, not touching but close enough to feel the energy between them. "We face challenges together, Leora," he said quietly, "and you will not face them alone." Her heart fluttered at the words. She wanted to speak, to tell him she trusted him, that she felt something more than fear. But the words remained unspoken, caught in the tension between them, in the uncharted space where power, trust, and something deeper began to mingle. As the night deepened, Leora and Kalen returned to the castle. The shadows of the day's events lingered in her mind. The cloaked figures, the wild surge of magic, the sense that something greater awaited her, all of it pressed on her, heavy but exhilarating. She knew the path ahead would be difficult. Training, danger, and her awakening power would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. But for the first time, she also knew she had a guide, a protector, and perhaps something more. And somewhere in the quiet corners of the castle, unseen eyes watched. The awakening of Leora's power had begun, and the balance of the kingdom was shifting. Tomorrow, she would face the challenges of her training again. But tonight, she allowed herself a single thought. She was not alone. And maybe, just maybe, She was beginning to believe that she could be strong enough to face whatever came next. The castle lay in silence as dawn crept over the horizon. The first rays of sunlight touched the spires, casting long shadows across the stone walls. Leora stood at the window of her chamber, staring out at the valley below. Her pulse was steady now, but her mind raced. Today was the day she would confront her destiny. The full power within her stirred like a storm, wild and impatient. Kalen appeared behind her, his presence quiet but commanding. "You're ready," he said softly, though his dark eyes betrayed a hint of worry. "Are you sure?" Leora turned to him, determination set on her face. "I have to be. I can't hide any longer. I know my magic is part of something bigger and I need to control it, not run from it." Kalen studied her, silent for a long moment, then nodded. "Then we will face it together." They left the castle, stepping into the crisp morning air. The forest below shimmered with dew and light, but Leora felt the weight of unseen eyes upon them. She knew the cloaked figures had not abandoned their pursuit. They waited, watching, ready to strike. Kalen led her to a clearing deep in the forest, a place of ancient power where the runes on the ground glowed faintly. "This is the heart of the kingdom," he said. "Here, magic is strongest. Here, your power will awaken fully. But also here, danger is greatest." Leora knelt on the ground, her hands brushing the glowing runes. The energy pulsed beneath her fingers, alive and wild. It responded to her heartbeat, to her focus, to her fear. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself. "You must concentrate," Kalen instructed, standing close. "Feel the energy as part of you, not against you. Control it, guide it. Only then will you be ready for what comes next." Leora closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The world around her seemed to fade. She felt the magic surge within her, a living force that could not be ignored. Slowly, she extended her hands, shaping the energy into a sphere of light. It hovered above her palms, bright and steady, yet powerful enough to bend the air around it. Kalen watched silently, impressed but cautious. "Excellent," he said softly. "Now let it flow through you, through your body, your mind, your heart. Trust yourself." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and carrying whispers of the ancient magic that surrounded them. Leora felt a surge of clarity. She could see the world differently now, the way energy flowed through everything, the way power responded to intention and emotion. Suddenly, the shadows shifted. The cloaked figures emerged from the forest, surrounding them. Their eyes gleamed with malice, their movements precise and threatening. "You cannot control her forever, Alpha King," one of them said, voice cold and echoing. "Her power belongs to us. Hand her over or be destroyed." Kalen drew his sword, placing himself in front of Leora. "You will not have her," he said firmly. "She belongs to no one but herself, and she chooses to fight." Leora's heart raced. She felt the energy within her respond instinctively, pulsing like a heartbeat through her entire being. She had never felt anything so alive, so strong, so terrifying. She extended her hands and a brilliant light erupted from her palms, scattering the cloaked figures back. They regrouped quickly, advancing with renewed determination. Leora's control wavered and the magic flickered wildly. Fear gripped her for a moment, but Kalen's voice anchored her. "Focus, Leora, trust yourself." She took a deep breath, centering herself. Slowly, the energy stabilized, forming a protective sphere around them. The cloaked figures recoiled, surprised by the power she wielded. "You see now," Kalen said, standing beside her, "this power is not a curse. It is your strength. Use it wisely." Leora nodded, determination burning in her chest. She extended her hands once more, and the energy surged outward in a wave, forcing the enemies back into the forest. Their hisses and shouts faded as they retreated, unwilling or unable to face her fully awakened magic. Kalen sheathed his sword, looking at her with admiration and something deeper, something she could not yet name. "You did it," he said quietly. "You controlled it. You are ready." Leora sank to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced the threat, controlled her magic, and felt for the first time that she was not powerless. The fear that had haunted her all her life seemed distant, replaced by a strange and thrilling sense of possibility. Kalen knelt beside her, his dark eyes meeting hers. "Leora," he said softly, "do you understand now? You are not hiding anymore. You are part of something greater, and together we can face anything." Her heart fluttered, a warmth spreading through her chest. She wanted to speak, to tell him how much she trusted him, how much she relied on him, not just for protection but for guidance, for understanding. But the words remained unspoken, caught in the tension between them, in the uncharted space where fear, trust, and something deeper mingled. Suddenly, a soft glow appeared in the clearing. The runes beneath them shimmered brighter, responding to Leora's fully awakened power. The energy formed a circle around them, a protective barrier that pulsed with life. Leora stood, feeling the connection between herself, Kaelin, and the ancient magic of the land. "This is it," Kaelin said, his voice reverent. "This is where your power and your destiny merge. You must make a choice, Leora. Embrace your strength fully or remain hidden and risk losing it." Leora took a deep breath, closing her eyes. She felt the energy flow through her, wild and untamed at first but gradually bending to her will. She opened her eyes and the light radiated outward, filling the clearing, filling the forest, filling her with clarity and courage. "I am ready," she whispered, her voice steady and strong. Kaelin reached out, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then together we will face whatever comes next." The cloaked figures reappeared, more determined than before. But Leora did not falter. She raised her hands and the energy surged, forming barriers, blasts of light, and waves of force that pushed the intruders back. Kaelin fought beside her, his skill and strength complementing her magic perfectly. Together, they moved as one, Leora guiding the power, Kaelin directing the strategy. The enemies faltered, then retreated into the shadows, unable to withstand the combined strength of the Alpha King and the awakened Omega. When the clearing fell silent, Leora sank to her knees, exhausted but victorious. Kaelin knelt beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "You did it," he said softly. "You controlled it all. You are no longer hiding from magic, from fate, or from yourself." Tears of relief and triumph filled Leora's eyes. She had faced the fear that had controlled her life for so long. She had embraced her strength, her magic, and her destiny. And she had done it not alone, but with Kaelin by her side. For a long moment they sat in silence, the glow of the runes surrounding them. The forest seemed to breathe, alive with the energy of their victory. Leora felt a connection to the land, to the magic, and to the man beside her, a bond forged through trials, courage, and trust. Kaelin reached out, his hand covering hers. "Leora," he said quietly, "the kingdom may yet face challenges, but we have faced the first together, and I will not leave your side, ever." Her heart skipped a beat. She wanted to speak, to tell him how she felt, but instead she simply nodded. The unspoken understanding between them was stronger than words. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and they had emerged stronger, united, and ready for whatever the future held. As they stood together, the sun fully rose, bathing the clearing in golden light. The forest seemed to hum with magic, alive and vibrant. Leora felt the energy within her settle into a steady rhythm, no longer wild, no longer frightening, controlled, strong, and full of potential. Kaelin looked at her, a rare smile touching his lips. "We have done more than survive," he said. "We have begun a new chapter for you, for me, and for the kingdom." Leora took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, the pulse of magic in her veins, and the presence of the Alpha King beside her. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive, truly powerful, and truly herself. "And I am ready," she said, her voice firm and steady. "Ready to face whatever comes next with you." Kaelin's hand tightened around hers. "Then together we will shape the future." And in that moment, under the rising sun, the kingdom's shadows retreated. The awakened power of the Omega and the strength of the Alpha King had forged a bond that could not be broken. They had faced destiny, and they had conquered it, side by side. The forest whispered around them, carrying their triumph into the world. Leora knew this was only the beginning. The magic, the destiny, and the challenges ahead would test them again. But with Kaelin beside her, she was no longer afraid. She had embraced her power, her courage, and her heart, and she was ready for anything the future might bring. The journey was complete, for now, but the legend of the hidden Omega and the Alpha King had only just begun.